Doing a little something different today. Instead of building beehives, I'm building a 6x6 octagon hive. Now I can't take credit for this. I'm doing almost everything according to a plan I found from a fellow on YouTube, and I'll post who this guy is. He shows how to do the windows, the bottom, the whole 9 yards. The only thing different I'm going to do is I'm going to make 4x4 post a stand that you set it up where it springs out and uses those metal elevators that you buy online. This is the start of it. The 6x, this one right here and this one right here are at 5 foot 9 inches. So when they butt up against this 6 foot one over here and this 6 foot one right here, these are both 6 foot. So it'll give us a full 6 foot measurement from the outside of here to the outside of this board right here. Cutting at 5 foot 9, you lose the 3 inches, since each one of these 2x is actually 1.5 inches wide, 1.5 inches plus 1.5 inches is 3 inches. So that's why your ones that are going to go in the middle through here are 5 foot 9 inches or 69 inches long. Dog's got to get in there. He likes to check out my work. So for those of you who don't know, his name is Shadow. He's an Australian blue heeler. You can see that I've got the 6 foot deck built now. I left the strap on there so you could see that sometimes you might need to do that just to help things make it easier on you. This yellow strap here, you can see the crank port right here. You put that on there and you crank it together, and it'll bring those ends close enough together to where your boards will hold themselves up, so you don't have to do it. I mean, you can put them up there with vices and different things like that, but I've just found it's easier just to put that little strap across there and wrap it around it and draw it in, so you can go ahead and tap those boards into place and then go ahead and screw them in or nail them in. I'm screwing them in. So also, if you see this tape measure over here, I'm getting ready to measure for the 4 foot ends. I don't want the edge of my plywood to just sit on nothing. So since you want to run your grain of your plywood across there instead of with it, like you'll see on some YouTubes, I run my plywood across, which is code when you're putting up a roof or when you're putting in floors in a subfloor or top floor on a house. So by running it across that way, my 4 foot plywood is going to be 2 foot short. So I'm going to run some 2x4s sideways across this section over here, with the center of them being at the 4 foot mark, so that I'll be able to put a 4 foot piece of plywood. I'll cut off 2 foot over here, and then I'll rip a piece of plywood 2 foot wide, which will go from this section here over, and it'll be also 6 foot long also, that I'll cut off the end. So I'll burn the belts up on it, so I had to order them online and get them delivered so I could go ahead and cut these 2x4s that you see in front of you. What I did is I set my blade on my rip saw to 22.5 degrees. When you put those two 22.5 degree together, you end up with a 45. Once you put this 22.5 and 22.5 degree angle together, you end up with a 45 degree angle. This is the 45 degree angle stud that we end up with when we're done. Like I said, you just rip the middle of a 2x4 22.5 degrees, as close as you can get to the middle. Doesn't matter if you're dead center. And then you turn one of them 180 degrees, and then once you put them together, you've got a 45 degree angle wall stud for one of the 8 corners in your Octagon deer blind. Right here is the way I set these things up so that I can put them in place. So I glue it, and then I clamp it together, and then put the nails about every foot to 14 inches. That clamp is there because the end of the board split. So I took the nail out and glued the split back and clamped it.
To so many of our sponsors today who were relishing the opportunity to be heard during the program because of the massive audience, and when we told them we were going to go commercial free, they understood completely, and they are just great people, and their businesses are fabulous people. And I wanted to mention, you know, cured. Oh, he's not one of those guys, but it ends up they can't. They cannot get somebody like Kamala Harris in the Oval Office building. So this is how they are fighting. Grab soundbite number 11. This is Pelosi talking about that this week. She's what's the other thing? It would fire the prosecutor getting close to nailing Biden's sons to be Hunter. And they got rid of the prosecutor. The prosecutor's fired inside of 6 hours. And Biden's bragging about it. Let's take a brief break. We'll come back and continue right after this.
Now, watch Rush on the Digital Cam on your big screen Apple TV. Download the free Rush TV app in the Apple TV App Store. You get Rush's free video selections. And Rush 24/7 members get even more. Archive digital cam footage of a radio show live stream. You can upgrade to a Rush 24/7 membership in the Rush app. Wait. Tidewater Crawl Space Solution says, don't just keep up with responsibility, knowing all the facts.
At Coastal Regenix, our experienced medical team uses state-of-the-art X-ray guidance that helps pinpoint the real source of your pain and, in most cases, avoid painful knee surgery. This breakthrough solution stimulates your knees to produce more of their own lubricating joint fluid with an FDA-cleared treatment. You heard that right. A safe, clinically effective option that helps to restore your
Polls commissioned by the same news organizations that so obviously want to wish a Trump defeat into reality. We know that the campaigns conduct their own internal or secret polling. Thus, we should take note when the actions of the campaign don't opposite Mondale, meaning I'm not going to vote my opponents relative to you. Anyway, on the point.
790 WNIS.
Hi, this is Brian Luciano, President of the Virginia Beach Police Benevolent Association. These are challenging times for our city, but rest assured that our members will continue to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep you safe. As police officers, we know public safety is a top priority for all, but we must work together. That's why the Virginia Beach Police Benevolent Association is endorsing Rosemary Wilson for Virginia Beach City Council. Rosemary Wilson is a leader who knows what needs to be done to protect those who call Virginia Beach. Law enforcement is grateful to Rosemary Wilson for consistently leading the fight to keep our neighborhoods, our schools, and our businesses safe. Rosemary will not be
Or 8888 online at CordellCordell.com. That's Cordell.
Since I've already had these on here, what I do is I run a screw all the way into the holes that were already used and just line it up with the screw holes that are already up there on what I've got up, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel.
The world has a new record. Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Emerging, I see a real fear factor in all things institutional. Where does this come from?
Take a look at it from all sides.
Joe Biden is now saying he won't reveal. Listen to what he says here. Now, I actually thought in the debate.
I'm gonna get a little closer because I got the tractor in the way right here.
Vice President Pence, he just eviscerated her. But it wasn't the debate moderator that asked the question. It was Pence that brought up the issue of war patterns.
We'll have the sun in our eyes in just a second. This is the side with the door. There's a couple indoor rafters already painted black, so I don't have to paint them once they're up here.
Okay, really? That's pretty unbelievable. So that means that they gotta pack the courts. Now, understand what that means here. And Chuck Schumer's out there saying everything is on the table. Now, there's been 29 openings in election years, and in spite of Abe Lincoln, 200 to choose from, and they'll help you find the one that is right.
And the reason why these are already painted, like I said before, it's just a whole lot easier while it's on the ground. You can put it on your sawhorse, paint it with some rollers instead of doing it overhead and dripping all over you.
Craftsmanship second to none, customer service second to none. If you go to their website, henryusa.com, Hampton Road Services, dedicated to quality construction, exceptional customer service, and a partner for all your construction needs. Hampton Road Services, a full-service construction company. HRS757.
All right, I got that piece of 3/4 inch board down there because I've got that as a spacer for where the bottom 2x, so I don't have anything pinching or anything scraping or whatever when I go to close the door, so I have a smooth open and closing. So the door's going to sit on there. Of course, after I get the screws on and everything, all of that will be removed. I also had 1/8 inch spacers up here, but I've still got the holes here that I can line up with the screws, so I'm not going to worry with that. Hey buddy, you feeling better now? You over that bee sting? It's mean to you, huh? Got you on the ear.
How about pound straw? $6.95 per bed. We got it. Need rental space for your business vehicles? We got that too. Visit us at 961 South Military Highway, about half a mile from Indian.
All right, would have been nicer if I'd have grabbed my gun, but there it is.
Or online at fourseasonsnursery.biz. Organic solutions for a greener future since 1972.
Hi, I'm Lonnie Bush with Lonnie Bush Real Estate. Are you ready to sell your home? With a guaranteed offer from Lonnie Bush Real Estate, you can receive an instant offer with
Take my ladder and lean it into it so I can get you. Hey buddy, where you going, huh? It's okay. It's okay. Them bees are all gone. It's okay. This dog's scared of bees now. They done nailed him 2 or 3 times today. Ain't fun getting stung by him, is it, buddy? Not a bit. I don't think it's supposed to be, though. Notice my spacing all the way up here.
This is now their ultimate power grab. There may, listen, if there may the presidential race again, if they are able to achieve what they're trying to achieve here. You know, you assert the
Tell you one thing, I sure am loving this because I still remember the days of the Yankee screwdriver. If any of y'all don't know what that is, it's a handheld screwdriver that I used to use in the 70s, where you hold the screwdriver and it had a twist where you could run it in like that, and it would make running in the screws a little bit faster. But I'll tell you something, these screw guns really make it a lot nicer. I'd still be on the first or second wall if I was doing this by hand. All right.
States like New York and Detroit, California and Illinois and Oregon and Washington State taking every part of it. And where does it end? Where does this end? It just steadfastly refuse to answer
There's the door.
fundamental question about what is
I still got to paint the inside of it, but there's the door.
equal branches and separation of powers. It will now be the power that once existed with the legislative branch of government and the executive branch of government. The courts will take it all of them. Depending on how radical the extremists are, that they'll do it, or which they'll do. And they're saying that it's all on the table. They're saying, they are telling you they're going to do it. Their non-answer is an answer. And I'll tell you the great fear that Biden and Kamala have is, and we just can't say it, because they will totally alienate our radical left-wing base. So we do with him, with Joe Biden, I'll tell you, after the election, let me play this.
You don't need all of these on here, but since the door is made of plywood, I'm putting 3 of these catches on here, so during the time I'm not in here, I'll catch all 3 of these, and the door will stay straight. It won't get warped while I'm not in it. Without all 3 of these catches, typically what will happen is the top will come out, and then you start getting varmints, wasps, and mice, all kinds of things you don't want in there. Liberals and the mob and the media bubble and things like Alka-Seltzer and water that the very mention of Donald Trump's name. I mean, it is now that psychotic. I've also got these 1/8-inch spacers right here. You might not be able to see them from that camera angle. I'll try to get a little closer. The guy that I saw this originally done on, I didn't notice anything like that, but I'm gonna put a 1/4-inch gasket in here, go all the way around this door, just to keep ants and other things from going in here. I'm gonna caulk all the corners and try to make it to where I don't have to worry about something coming in there and chewing up on my chair and things like that, and making a nest in there while I'm not in there, or while I'm in there. And having that gasket all the way around this will keep that. Well, without these spacers here, you'll just completely squash your gasket when you close this part of the door. So this spacer will keep that 1/4-inch gasket just squashed half of it. And it may flex out, it may not, but at least I won't squash it flat against the board, and it won't be any good after the first time of leaving it closed for a while. And there's your closers. Good to go. I think this is the one for this side. That's drawing that 2x4 and that piece of plywood up together, so plywood doesn't warp up against there.